Hey y'all, welcome to Pleiadian Point of View. I'm Peyton with Peyton Energetics, and I'm a Pleiadian channel and starseed coach. So in today's point of view, the Pleiadians are going to be talking about how we as an awakened community handle some of the scary stories that are floating around in the world right now. Because over the last week or so, I have been getting messages from people all over the world asking, what about this thing or that thing? What do the P's have to say about it? So I've asked the Pleiadians to talk to us about how we navigate some of the scary stories that we are seeing in the world around us. So what the P's wanted us to understand when we are being bombarded with stories that can seem a little alarming or a little scary is that we have to put this in the context of what we are doing on an energetic level as a collective. So the first thing the P's wanted us to understand, whenever we are hearing about things in the world around us that may or may not be true, but they put us in a little fear either way, the first thing the P's wanted us to understand is that we are going through a time where we are processing collective energies. So this is what most light workers and starseeds are doing right now. We really aren't doing a whole lot of working on our own stuff anymore. Most of us have been on the spiritual path for a while now, and we've done a lot of the heavy lifting on our individual stuff. So what many light workers and especially starseeds are doing right now is we are breaking down planetary templates. And you have heard the P's use this fancy term in several videos, and that just means massive collective energy, a global energy. So planetary templates are the energies or the glue that have held the 3D experience in place. And we are breaking that down now. So that is why we are seeing such a pop-up of craziness in the world around us, where we see a lot of what looks like very negative behavior. One of the reasons for that is we are collectively processing the planetary template of abuse, violation, malevolence on this planet. It's just an energy. Now, another huge planetary template that many of us are really staring in the eyes right now is the template of illness and disease and aging. This is a massive planetary energy. And here's the thing. Some of these planetary energies, although they feel very scary when we are seeing reflections of them in the world, they're just energies. And these are energies that often served humanity for much of its history. So the template of illness and disease and aging was actually very important for most of human evolution because it enabled us to move through a reincarnational cycle so that we weren't stuck on Earth for thousands of years as a caveman, right? So we put in place the energetic pattern of disease, of aging, to let us move on at a particular point. So some of these templates, although we're not huge fans of them right now, they served a point in our evolution. But we are at the point now of essentially renegotiating all of our global agreements. So according to the P's, just because there is an energy that has been on the planet for thousands of years that maybe has defined much of our life experience, it doesn't mean we have to continue to create it. So that is what we are being faced with right now, is we are seeing the reflections of all of these templates coming up for renegotiation. So as an awakened community, this is our opportunity to say, we don't choose that anymore. And just because we have created something as a human collective for thousands of years or even more, we can let that go now. That is the time period we are in, where we have the freedom as individuals and as a collective to decide what we allow in our reality. So that is the purpose that these negative manifestations are giving us. All that is happening is that we are being shown what our world was based on. We are being shown the energy patterns that we are subconsciously and unconsciously holding on to just by being born in human bodies on this planet. But now, as we are looking at them, we have the opportunity to release them, because we can't release an energy until we have brought it into our conscious mind, until we acknowledge it as part of ourselves. So one of the huge energies that we are being faced with as a collective is the planetary template of disease and aging. So let's walk through a little example, because I always ask the P's to walk me through an example because it just helps me kind of ground it in my mind. So let's walk through a little bit. Let's just play with the example of the template of disease and aging, because it's a really good one, because it's one that touches all of us in a really major way. And this is one of those templates that gives you a sense of how powerful planetary templates are, because these are the energies that are the backbone of our human experience, which we're changing, but they are. So when we are considering the planetary template of aging and disease, the first thing that you may notice as you think of, or just rest your attention on one of these templates, is that it seems massive, right? This is a template that we are all faced with. We see the evidence of it in our families. You can't turn on your television without being bombarded with matrix programming telling you you are getting old and your body is probably falling apart, right? This is something we are drowned in as a collective. The messaging that we have to get sick and get old. And as the P's like to point out, that's not actually energetically true. It is just something we have collectively agreed to do. So as you start to look at a planetary template, the first thing that may jump out to you is it seems massive, like too big for one starseed to possibly be able to do anything about, right? That's how these energies work. They puff themselves up, and our ego mind will start to chime in saying, you can't change that. You can't remove illness and aging from your reality. That's just how it is. Right? That's the ego mind reflecting the template. But you absolutely can change anything. You created it all. So the P's like to use the example of giving us a first step of recognizing that these templates, these huge issues, and you can see many different ones reflected in our collective right now, is to look at that huge thing that seems kind of scary as a reflection and recognize that it is just energy, because everything is just energy. And energy can always be moved. It can always be changed. And then what the P's have been encouraging me to do, because the template of illness and disease and aging and toxicity has been very in my face recently. And we are all seeing kind of manifestations of this, reflections of this, whether it is in our family, in our bodies, in the mirror. We are all seeing this template right now. It is very active in our collective. And so the first thing that the P's offered to me when I was getting a little stressed out about it is they told me to imagine that this is an old computer program that I'm just removing from my computer. So yes, my computer may have always run off of this program of the human body needing to age, needing to decay, to entropy. But the P's encouraged me to look at the template from the perspective of just an outdated program. It's just one that's running on a global level. And then what they encouraged me to do is to think that I was just here to provide a service to the collective of helping delete this program, to look at this thing that seems so huge and massive as just old programming, because that's all it is. It's an old collective agreement. Because as the P's like to tell us, we can break down any energy. As a single individual lightworker or starseed, you can break down global energies. Now, your ego mind is going to jump in and say, oh, no, you can't do that. It's too big. It's just how things are. But once we realize that is just the belief reinforcing itself, and imagine that that is just part of the old program. And this is something that you can remove completely, because the mind is going to want to hold on to all of these old programs, because the mind is all about holding on to what It knows, even if what it knows is uncomfortable. The mind is going to hold on to that instead of facing something it's not familiar with. So that's why we get that ego pushback or that mental pushback when we think about releasing some of these huge beliefs, these huge templates. It's just the mind trying to stay in control. So when the mind starts giving you trouble and trying to derail you, just give it a cookie and have it sit in the corner, because this is absolutely something that you can release. So what the P's encourage us to do when we are starting to work with these big global energies, which most of us are, whether we realize it or not, is to bring the energy into your heart and to do your integration process. And the P's just talked about the integration process in a recent video. So go back and check that out if you missed it, because this is one of the most important tools that we need to have right now as lightworkers and starseeds, because it is pretty much the only process that we have available to us to break down planetary templates. Most of our old tools won't work on global energies. So make sure you have a solid practice of being able to integrate energy, because that is what's going to help you start to break down these massive planetary stories. You know, the stories of all the scary things that we're being faced with are just showing us planetary energies that are ready to be recycled. We're just done with them. And so as we move through the ascension process, these huge energies that are hitting the planet are highlighting where we have old programming. And because these are such massive energies, they tend to be the ones that, when we see the reflection, can be a little scary. They can be a little chaotic. So that's what we are seeing. We're just seeing reflections of energy that humanity is ready to release. And they are only scary if we get into the story with the physical mind. So if we let the ego run around with the template of abuse and violation, it's going to come up with some of the stories and reflections that we're seeing around us right now. But if we back up, pump the brake, recognize that whatever stories are flipping us out right now are just reflections of energy, and any energy we can break down, we can take ourselves out of fear mode. Because when we get into fear mode with these big stories, and y'all, I am right there with you. I see some of the things out there and have to pull myself back. So I'm not saying that this is easy. But once we remember, first off, it's just energy. Energy can always be changed. Second of all, no matter what it is, we know how to break it down. We harvest the energy. And as we do that, we make a new collective choice. So as you start to bring these planetary templates and whatever the reflections are that are in your face now, so what are the stories that are triggering you? Start to bring those into your heart space and start to send those things love. You start to reclaim it as your creation, and you put yourself back in the driver's seat. And the cool thing that happens as you do your integration process, you break down your belief in that template so that you no longer believe that the human body has to age and get sick. It's just not part of your belief structure anymore. And a fascinating thing happens as we start to break down these huge collective beliefs. And that is, once you break it down so that you can look at those stories and be absolutely neutral with it, because you know it is not part of your reality, you actually shift to a parallel reality that doesn't have it. Because remember, as the P's have told us on several occasions, we are constantly shifting between parallel realities. We do it billions of times per second. And so we can make huge quantum leaps in our reality just by releasing limiting beliefs. Because every time you release a belief, you move to a parallel reality where that belief never existed. So you can actually jump to a reality where humans don't age or get sick. It is another parallel reality that is always available to us. But we have to release our collective belief that this has to happen, that we have to get sick, we have to get old. It's just an old collective agreement. So as we start to break these collective agreements down that we're seeing reflected, we start to shift to versions of reality that don't have them. So these things start to fade from our reality. So that is a way to use some of the things that might be kind of alarming reflections that you're seeing right now in a positive way. Put yourself back in the power seat of your creative control, where you realize you are in control of your reality. This is what the P's recommend as we are trying to navigate some of the stories out there. And they always like to throw in that most of what we are worried about is not even true to begin with. It's not even happening. So that's always something just to keep in your mind, that ask that question of, how do I know that this is actually happening? Because there's just so much smoke and mirrors from the matrix right now. We don't necessarily know that what we're being told and what we're being shown is even happening. So this is a way to take some of those things that might be scaring you a little bit and reframe them. Put yourself back in control. So this is what the P's are offering to us in today's point of view. Let me know in the comments below, how are you weathering the energies right now? Drop that in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. And as always, if you need extra help, reach out to me anytime. You can find the link to all of my classes in the description below, so check that out if it calls to you. I'll see you soon. Bye.